That injury down. We'll get back to '97, but you had a long career after that.
Well, you know, everybody knew it was at that point it was a career-ending injury. I just when they told me that part, and I was in bed rest for like in the hospital for like almost a month. And then when they put me on bed rest and in a wheelchair for like 4 to 5 months, I just tried it on my own. Had strong faith in the men upstairs, and I was just doing stuff around the house. You know, even though they told me don't get out the wheelchair, I was getting out the wheelchair doing dips and seeing if I could put a little weight on it. And when I walked back in the facility, Carolina Panthers facility, a lot earlier than they thought, about 6 months earlier than they thought. You know, the DB coach said, if you come back here next year, walking normal, you starting. So that was more of a motivation for me.
What was it about this '97 team that enabled you all to kind of finally get over the top and win the conference?
We had great leadership. We had a great coaching staff and had great leadership. I know when Jamal Lewis and myself, which was my roommate, and him and I coming from Georgia, Leonard and Peyton came to our room, our dorm room, and told us exactly what he expected out of us. You know, Leonard was talking to me as one of the captains of the defense, and Peyton was talking to Jamal and myself, because at that point I was contemplating on going both ways. So they just told me exactly the role that we need to play, how we need to follow, and the mentality of the volunteer offense and defense of the team, period.
Just what does it mean to have everybody back?
Oh, it's always wonderful. You know, most of us stay in contact with one another in a way. So we talk a lot. A lot of us stay in Atlanta or within this region, so we see each other a lot, but when we can rub shoulders with one another, it's always a spark.
Deon, you were, if I'm not mistaken, you were here on an unofficial visit in '96 when Tennessee fell behind 35-0 Florida. They lost that game. Everybody thought they were going to have a hard time recruiting you guys. What was it about Tennessee that made Tennessee such an attractive place for you to commit to play here?
It was two things. It was two things. At that point, Florida was owning Tennessee. In Georgia, high school, and growing up from on every level, street level to sports level, it's a big rivalry. And we just felt like the Tennessee-Florida rivalry was bigger than the Georgia-Florida rivalry as far as college. And we say, you know, we just beat them in the Georgia-Florida game, and Jamal was just setting it. Like, Georgia wasn't recruiting Jamal, but they was recruiting me heavy. And Jamal was like, man, let's go up here and just change the mentality of Tennessee. We're gonna be that team that beat Florida. So that was the number one thing, that conversation Jamal and I had. And the other ones that they used to have this video. I don't even know if they have it now since they done changed all this. And it was I Can Feel It in the Air.
Phil Collins.
Phil Collins, right? Yeah. And they had it playing, and they had all the guys that was all Americans that made it to the NFL. That was just greats, Tennessee greats, and it brought tears to my eyes. I never seen anything like it. And they had that playing in the background, and at that point, Reggie White, God bless his soul, was one of my idols. So just seeing him on that video and the history that I didn't even know about Tennessee draw my attention.
When did you know that first year in '97 that you could play right away? I know you always had confidence, but was there a moment in fall camp? Was there a play? Was there a game where you went, all right, I'm good?
Yes, when I picked Payne off at practice. That was it. When I picked Payne off, I felt good, ran home. Went back to the dorm. I didn't show it then, but went to the dorm and called back home and bragged like crazy over the phone. Jamal in the room laughing. It was then. But I think our group, you know, Cozy, Jamal, myself, we came in with that mentality. Like, you know, we was, at that point, there wasn't no such thing as stars, 5 stars, but we was all Americans. And we felt like wherever we went, that we was going to be able to play, if not that first year, that second year, and have an impact.
What was the play? You mentioned you picked Peyton. Do you remember the
I just know it was a deep ball. It was a deep ball, and I know it wasn't the first team on the field because I wasn't part of the first team. You know, we had Corey Gaines and Torrey Noel as the starting safeties, but I was in there for whatever play and it was a deep ball, and I picked him off. And I can recall him getting mad, and you know how Pay get when he do something bad. It was worse than in college, but he came and said something to me after the fact, like congratulate me and everything. So it was that moment when I knew I could have an impact.
How much did you guys talk? I mean, you know, we live in an era now where everybody's talking, texting, and messaging on Twitter and all this other stuff. You couldn't really do that back then. How much did you guys, as that signing class in '97, how much did you guys talk and communicate before you ever got here?
See, that was the thing. We really was family. We spent so much time together. Even when we went out and some other guys went somewhere separate and got in trouble, we was upset with them guys because they didn't involve us. They didn't tell us about it. So we was such a close-knit group that we wanted to be around each other even when it was downtime. If we was playing video games, everybody wanted to be in the rooms playing video. If you wasn't playing a video game, just being part of the room, being in the room, part of the conversation. So that's some of the things when I come back now, I talk to the guys about, as far as the technology that took over so much that everybody want to be on Instagram and Twitter, but you have to spend more time with talking to one another. On the football field, it carried over. It was time when Fred White and I didn't even know a call, and we just played off each other. Dwayne and I just played off each other. Or Al look at me, and I know exactly what Al looking at me for because we spent so much time off the field together.
Could that thunder and lightning thing that you and Fred had, could that work in today's football? I know Chavis said he'd like his safeties to be interchangeable, but you and Fred seem to have a special chemistry. Is that something that could still happen in today's football, or is it just too hard to have two different kind of guys like that?
No, it definitely still can happen. It can happen because it happened all the way up to my last year in the NFL. You know, we came with that 3 safety defense, and we had 3 guys that had a lot of quarterbacks confused because they didn't know which guy was playing which, and all of us can cover and hit and play in the box and play deep third or play the half. So I think you still can do that, but take it to my last year in the league. Our secondary in New York was very close. We did everything together, and that's what it takes. And I think that's what's missing now, is that you see the teams that's winning and doing good, like them boys down in Miami, they spend a lot of time off the field together. And I think that's what we need to get back to, just preaching, you know, just when y'all get together, talk football sometime. Just feel one another. You know, when they get together now, they might be in the room with one another, but everybody's looking down. And I think that's what's really hurting the game now, because the basics is not being talked about no more.
You talked about the mentality too. How difficult is that, not to just have you and a guy like Jamal have the same mentality, but I mean, there's a lot of guys that have to have all that same mindset in order to put a full team, you know, it's a championship level caliber team together.
Well, I think when you have them guys that can walk that walk also, instead of just talking it, that's on the team, I think that's where it started at. You know, somebody that they can respect and say, okay, he's not only talking, he's proving himself on the football field also, and he's not afraid to get in somebody's face and speak up when he need to be speak up, not just being a physical leader, but being a vocal leader also. I think that's what creates that mentality. Let guys know this is Tennessee volunteer football mentality. And right now, I think that's what's missing. That's what's been missing for a few years. Just the guys need to step up. And if they don't know what it is, I think more of us need to come back and just show them this is what Tennessee football is all about.
Deon, you obviously had a lot of great moments throughout your career, but I got to ask you about the Florida game. And how often have you been asked about the Angels lifted me quote? I mean, is that kind of stuck with you? And where does that moment rank for you?
That's probably the top, because I think that's when a lot of people really knew who Deon Grant was from that moment. So I have to say it's probably the top. But a lot of people knew I could jump. You know, that was my thing, playing basketball, 40-some inch vertical. So guys on my team wasn't surprised. I think they was more surprised of where I came from versus me jumping to get the ball, because I really ain't jumped high, I just jumped out. But I hear about it every time they find out you Deon Grant. They don't even talk about the NFL career. They go straight back to that play. So I hear about it a lot.
Was that like a line of yours that the Angels lifted you, or did that just come out that night?
No, I think that's always a line of mine. I always feel like the angels lifting me, so that's something that's gonna stick with me for the rest of my life.
Deon,
One more.
who was the more, I don't want to say intimidating, but who got your attention more, Al Wilson or Leonard Little?
Al. Al is the best leader I ever been around on any level of football or business. Al taught me how to be more of a leader. I was a leader before I met him, but he taught me really how to be a leader. So I have to say, Al, he was all around. He had it all together.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.